Yes, we can continue. Sorry.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Kamran Kundi. Today we will be covering the keto diet come lifestyle. So it's not just the diet, but also in general, how we can live a long and healthy life. Keto is the more famous name. The but it's also known as low carb high fat diet, LCHF. So today, inshallah, we will do the first session. We'll have another session to complete the whole content. I will encourage you to have some patience. We may not be able to cover the details of exactly what you need to eat and what not eat. We will cover some high level, but then inshallah in the next session, I'll give you more practical tips on how you can actually do it. I'll give you some resources as well after this session so that if you want to do some study yourself, you can do that. But today we will cover some basics. So let's jump right into it. Uh, so this is the agenda. We'll cover as much as we can, but we will probably will not be able to cover the whole thing. Okay. So a little bit of my introduction. I'm not a doctor. I'm a software engineer by profession. I graduated from Ghulam Shah Khan Institute. I was among the first batch. I did a master's in software engineering from University of Texas, Dallas. I am employed at Elm Company, which is the premier local Saudi IT company. I'm senior technical advisor in the technology division. Uh, I've lived in Pakistan. I used to work in US before coming to Saudi Arabia. Father of six, alhamdulillah. And I've worked in large corporations like IBM, Texas Instruments, and a few startups. I'm passionate about keto and health in general, but I'm also very interested in digital transformation, scaling organization, electrification of vehicles and power, urban construction. So these are all the topics that I'm interested in, and we can do a webinar on each one of them if interested. All right, so let's start. So we will start with a disclaimer. So I'm not a doctor. So, but I have spent a lot of time last 4 years on studying keto, and I've been practicing it myself, and I've been talking to a lot of friends. So please understand that I'm not medically trained, but I think today what we will go through will help a common person in general in improving their health, inshallah. There is a learning curve. It's not simple, straightforward. It's not that, hey, do this, don't do that. Yeah, we will get to that as well, but you have to understand the basics. A lot of people who follow certain type of diets, most of them, and the numbers are really bad. It's like more than 90% end up not following it for a longer period of time. So you have to have the right motivation, and you have to have the right balance, a more well-formed plan that you can follow. So there is a learning curve. So you will have to. There are a few things that you have to unlearn, and there are things that you have to learn to be able to do it properly, inshallah. Uh, if you have underlying medical conditions like diabetes or gout, or heart condition, you have to. Best thing is to get, to consult with your doctor who is aware of keto and who practices it. Unfortunately, I have not found any doctor in Saudi Arabia as yet. I know there might be some Arabic speaking doctors, uh, maybe one or two, but I'm not personally familiar with any doctor here in Saudi Arabia. There is a directory in USA. You can actually go online and find a keto aware doctor in US, and they will be able to help you, and some of them consult remotely as well. Okay. All right, let's jump right into it. So, what are the learning goals for first session? So, today we will understand the theory. Why do we need to even follow a keto low carb lifestyle? What are the diseases caused by high carb diet or the regular diet most of us are eating, around the world? So, most of the common diseases we see today, they are rooted. 80% of rooted are there. The main root cause is the same. And we have to understand some of those dynamics so that we can go into it with knowledge, and knowledge will help us improve in following the diet properly. There are a few things that we have to also unlearn. Common knowledge that we have been imparted through mainstream media, that we have to understand that that's a lot of politics behind it, a lot of money, financials behind it. They have been, teaching people some, basically not true stuff, but actually falsehood. So that will be, inshallah, we'll cover a lot of that, and then we'll jump into, we'll be able to cover some of the diet specific stuff. And then, inshallah, in the next session, we'll cover most of the details. So first thing, even if, doesn't matter if you are following keto or not, there are certain toxins, poisons in our diet, in our daily diet. Most of us are taking those without being aware of it. So let's cover those toxins. It's not a complete list, but these are the big ones. Okay. So the first one is the deadly oil, present in every kitchen. Okay. And I'm talking about vegetables or vegetable oils, highly refined vegetable oils, corn oil, canola, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, soya bean, grapeseed oil, rice bran oil. This is what everyone is using for cooking. So this is the cooking oil. We can go to Panda or a grocery store, and this is what we find everywhere. This is not good for our health. These are basically polyunsaturated fats. That's the technical term. And the funny thing is, these are not vegetable oils. These are seed oils. They come from the seed of these flowers or fruits, plants. They are not vegetables. They are not coming from the vegetable. So, it's just a marketing gimmick. They are calling them vegetable oils so that they, because when we think about vegetables, we think about, healthy stuff. But these are actually seed oils. Why they are bad, we'll talk about it. But so these are polyunsaturated fats as compared to what we call natural saturated fats. So these are animal fat, like, beef tallow, sheep sweat. This is the animal fat that you can use to cook. Butter, ghee. So these are, butter and ghee comes from animal source. The animal fat comes from animal source. So the first part of the list are all animal products, animal fats, and then you have fruit oils. Olive oil comes from fruit. Olive is a fruit. Coconut, avocado oil. Avocado oil is not commonly available here, but it's very commonly available in US. Coconut oil, So all of this list is what people have been using forever. In Middle East region, everybody was used to use animal fats, and mostly they were using olive oil. In this part of the world, in Far East, they were using coconut oil. In subcontinent, South Asia, they were using ghee, butter. We were also using sarson ka tel. That's also not bad. So these are saturated fats, or what we call monounsaturated fats. So what is that? So let's get into some, because most of us are here professionals, engineers, or university graduates. So let's get into some details here. So what are saturated fats? So fats are basically polycarb, the hydrocarbons, right? So you have carbon chains, and then a lot of hydrogen atoms around it, ended by some kind of a standard molecule over here. So this is a molecule of saturated fat. If you notice, there are only single bonds between carbon atoms. So you have the maximum number of hydrogen atoms attached to this molecule. So it's fully saturated with hydrogen atoms, and that's why it's called saturated fatty acid. Compared to, in the middle of this picture, you have one double bond between two carbon atoms. So you have two less hydrogen atoms over here. So this is called monounsaturated fat because you have less hydrogen atoms over here. So monounsaturated because there is only one single bond. If you have more than one single, because you have one double bond. If you have more than one double bonds. That's called polyunsaturated fats. Okay, and this is the bad one. Okay, the bottom one is the bad one. Now, when you uh, take oil, let's say desi ghee even, majority of the molecules would be the saturated fat, the first type, which is very, very stable because there are no double bonds. The molecule is straight. It's a highly stable molecule, very good for human consumption. But there will be a small amount of monounsaturated molecules as well and polyunsaturated fats as well. But those would be very, very less amount. If you take, let's say, olive oil is mostly monounsaturated fat. So most of the molecules are like this, but it will have some saturated and some polyunsaturated molecules as well. But majority will be monounsaturated. So that's also good, but not as stable as the first one, the saturated fat. So desi ghee, butter, um, animal fats are all saturated. The fruit oils like olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil are monounsaturated. And the vegetable oils, which are basically seed oils, they are polyunsaturated and they are very, very unstable because of the abundance of the double bonds between carbon atoms. Because these double bonds basically are chemically unstable. They break down, they oxidize with the oxygen, and they go through something called hydration, and that causes the oil to go what we call rancid. The oil goes rancid and becomes bad for human consumption. So if you have ever tasted, the walnuts which have gone bad, like it tastes really bad, and if you smell it, it smells really bad as well. So that's an example of the oils in the walnut that have gone rancid because it was sitting around for too long. It was in high, maybe in hot weather, or was not stored in a refrigerator or a fridge. So it was in hotter temperature, and it was exposed to sunlight as well. So sunlight can actually speed up the oxidation process, which an oxidation makes the oil go bad. Now, I have never seen desi ghee going bad personally, and I use desi ghee at home. I have seen olive oil go bad. I had a bottle of olive oil. It was sitting in my cupboard, and I forgot about it. And the kitchen was pretty hot in Saudi Arabia. After a couple of years, I found the bottle, and the oil had multiple layers. It smelled really bad. And if I had tasted it, it would be like horrible taste. Not good for consumption. It's like now poison. Okay. Now, this is the issue with polyunsaturated fats, the seed oils, that they would go bad very quickly. Now, you would say, hey, Kamran, uh, I have never seen a sunflower oil or canola oil going bad, because what they did was, in the past, they would never consume these vegetable oils for eating, like cottonseed oil or soybean oil, because they were not fit for consumption. They would go bad within days. And they actually used to use them as lubricants in factories before we found the mineral oil, getting oil from the underground, and started using the lubricants, synthetic lubricants from the mineral oil. They were using vegetable oils or seed oils for lubrication in factories. So they figured out that if we can, we like, imagine this, the clothes we wear, it's not cotton now anymore. It's polyester. Polyester is a byproduct of crude oil, the mineral oil. So we are actually wearing a lot of crude oil on our bodies. Before that, all the clothes were made from cotton. So we had huge cotton fields everywhere around the world. And with cotton flour, you would produce cotton seed as well. That cotton seed would go to waste. So they would use it to produce oil from it. And that oil was used as lubricant. But they said, if we can stabilize the vegetable oil, the polyunsaturated fats, if we can come up with a process where we can remove the double bonds and stabilize the molecule, then we can actually maybe sell it for, so that people can use as edible oil, for cooking purpose. So they actually came up with a process called hydrogenation plant. So this is a picture of a actual hydrogenation plant. If you look at it, it looks like an oil refinery. It doesn't look like, a nice field with, plants and trees growing food. This is producing our vegetable oil. Let's go into some details of that. So, if you look at corn, corn, the corn has those yellow kernel, right? And the seed is a small part inside that. And they have to extract oil from that seed. Now, if you take olives, you squish them in your hand will become oily. But if you take corn in your hand, you can squish it as much as you like, but it won't become oily. So it's very difficult to extract even the oil from these seeds. So they have a very heavy duty process. It's an industrial and chemical process. So when they crush it, they get some oil out, then they use high steam to process it, and the remaining what they call it, the cake, the pasty stuff that is left behind after extracting the oil, they take it through a chemical process where they mix solvent with it so that they can even extract the oil out of that pasty stuff. And it goes through, and then they have to remove that solvent from that oil. Eventually that oil goes back and gets mixed with the original oil that they got, and then it goes through further cleaning, and so this is just the oil extraction process. They're already using high heat, they're already using chemicals and solvents, so it's going through industrial and chemical process. Once the oil comes out, then it goes through the refining process. That's why the vegetable oils are called highly refined vegetable oils. The refining process is drawn over here in this green box. First, what they do is degumming. They use acids to take the gums out of it, because the gums make the oil a little bit cloudy, because they want to make it look nice and clear and golden color. Okay, so that's why they are taking the gum out. Then they have to neutralize the acid, so they take it through the neutralization process. Then next step is winterization. Then they wash it. Then at this point, what you get is a dark gray gooey material, which is very bad to look at. So they bleach it and they filter it, and it smells really bad. So then they deodorize it, and then they make it look shiny and golden. They take it through the brightening process and using nitrogen. So you can see how much heat, pressure, chemicals they are using to just refine the seed oils. Okay, so high heat, pressure, solvent, degumming, deodorization. This is your oil that we consume every day. I really doubt it can be healthy. So this is problem number one. We'll talk about problem number two. So these seed oils are very high in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, there are two essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6. Seed oils are full of omega-6. We need them because they are essential, but if we consume them in a very high amount, we get into a lot of trouble. It causes inflammation in our body and causes inflammation at the cellular level. So ideally, the ratio of omega-3 fatty acids to omega-6 should be 1:1. You should consume as much omega-6 fatty acids as much omega-3 fatty acids. You can go but unfortunately, because we consume so much vegetable oil, we are consuming too much omega-6 and very little omega-3. So they suggest that the ratio can be as bad as 1:4. If you're consuming 1 part of omega-3, you can go as bad as much as 4 parts of omega-6. But the normal people are consuming as much as 1:20 or worse, because everything has vegetable oils. We even cook in vegetable oil. and which is full of omega-6s. Okay, now the things which are so the goal is that we have to increase the consumption of omega-3 foods and limit the consumption of omega-6 foods. So what does have, which foods have omega-3s? So seafood is a very good example. Salmon, sardines, oysters, animal-based omega-3. If you have grass-fed beef, beef which is coming from the cattle which is being fed on grass, that's the best. Okay, so as compared to plant-based omega-3s. Plant-based omega-3s are low-quality omega-3s. You can consume them, but your body will require a lot more energy to make it useful. Okay, so that's why, alhamdulillah, we are all Muslims, so majority, so we are okay to eat animals. We don't have any reservations about being just vegetarian, because I don't think it's a very good idea to be 100% vegetarian. It's very important to consume animal products in our food, and that keeps us healthy. Okay, so this is the problem. Because vegetable oils are very high on omega-6s, this is one problem. Even if we are consuming, if you go to Pakistan, you get sunflower oil from the field, from the farmer, which has not gone through industrial and chemical processes. Even then, that's much better than what you are getting from the factories. But it's still very high on omega-6. Okay, so highly recommended to go to desi ghee, butter, or olive oil, or coconut oil, or canola, or avocado oil, fruit oils. Okay, so guess what? We were not consuming vegetable oils before. Everybody was using ghee, butter, animal fat, all the good stuff. But then Procter & Gamble introduced a brand called Crisco in 1911 when they came up with this hydrogenation plants, the stuff that I showed you before. And because there is a lot of corn that they were producing, because corn is highly subsidized, they were producing a lot of cottonseed. So they started producing these vegetable oils in 1911, and they started marketing it big time. It was cheaper, and people started using vegetable oils the way we are using them today in 1911. And after around 25, 30 years, they found out that the heart attacks are becoming very common. Before that, even large cities would have very few deaths from heart attacks, heart disease. But as they started consuming in 1911, by 1930, 1940s, the heart disease became like the number one killer, and it still is. And I think a lot of people link it to the use of vegetable oils. Unfortunately, there was a lot of lobbying and politics involved. American Heart Association is a non-profit organization. It's not a regulatory body. It does not issue licenses or do anything. It's a non-profit organization. It's one of the richest, actually the richest non-profit organization, and it was getting proceeds from Procter & Gamble in millions of dollars in 40s and 50s. You can imagine, even today, it's like close to 100 or so members of that and employees of American Heart Association. At that time, it was even smaller, and they were being funded by big food and big pharma. So how can they be impartial, right? So they published guidelines in 1961 saying, hey, heart disease is caused by cholesterol, and cholesterol is caused by saturated fats. So do not consume desi ghee, butter, animal fat. Instead, consume vegetable oils. They are heart healthy. And this has been proven time and time again wrong, and completely opposite for that matter. Heart disease is actually caused by vegetable oils, and the saturated fats are a lot better. But billions of dollars have been spent on marketing saying, hey, if you consume desi ghee or butter, it's going to go into your arteries and it's going to solidify and it's going to clog your arteries. If you even eat foods cooked in desi ghee, you get this image in your mind, that, oh, maybe he's going to give me a heart attack because it's going to go and solidify in my veins and arteries. So they have created this, a fear of fat, saturated fats, basically, which is called, this phenomena is called fat phobia. And I had it, and all of you have it as well. But the only way you can overcome fat phobia is through knowledge. Inshallah, that's why that's why we are going to some of the details that we are going through today. Fat phobia is gonna scare the hell out of you. As you will move to keto, you'll say, "Oh man, if I go on a high fat diet, I will die of heart attack. I'll have health problems." And heart is one point, single point of failure. If my heart fails, I'm dead. So I had the similar fears as well, but you have to overcome that through knowing the actual facts. And believe me, you're not going to get it through mainstream media because there's a lot of big lobbies involved, principally big food and big pharma. Okay, so let's look at another aspect of the vegetable oils. If you look at the nutritional fact labels, next time you go to the store, you will see it says trans fat 0. Why are you putting something over here which is 0? If it's 0, don't mention it. The thing is, trans fats are banned. You should have 0 trans fats in your food that they are producing in these big food industries because trans fats are carcinogens. They cause cancer. Okay, and what are trans fats? Trans fats are a type of double bond. So we looked at this bond, where in this double bond, both the hydrogen atoms were on the same side. This is called a cis unsaturated bond, double bond. Okay. And this is called the trans bond because the hydrogen atoms are on the opposite side. Okay. It's actually the same terminology, transgender and cisgender. I am a cis male because I was born male and I identify as a male, you know. And if I was born male and I identify as a female, I'm a trans female. Okay. So they are using the same scientific terminology here. Trans double bond has the hydrogen atoms on the opposite side, cis has on the same. This is the bad one. Now, why is it bad? Because when they take the unsaturated fats, vegetable oils, the seed oils, through the industrial process, chemical process, they end up with fat molecules. Technically, they are fat molecules, but they don't occur in nature. They are unnatural, and they are these trans fats, and they have a abundance of those. And they are proven to be carcinogenic, and that's why they are banned. But here is the funny part. Here is the dangerous part. Food companies can label their food items and sell them as 0 trans fat if there is less than 0.5 grams of trans fats per serving. Per serving. This is very, very tricky. If you get a box of biscuits, biscuits will use oil. They use vegetable oils to make them. The whole packet of biscuit, let's say there are 20 packets, 20 biscuits in it, the serving size is not the whole box. The serving size is maybe 3 biscuits. Now, in those 3 biscuits, how much oil would you use to cook it? Probably a small amount. Now, from that, if that oil has 0.5 grams of trans fats, that's 0.5 grams. Very easily, So, the thing is, every food product that you see in the market, you go to Panda or you go to Tamimi, everything that is comes in a box, can, a packaged food item is using vegetable oils. So these are some famous examples. Pizza, the deep fried stuff is even the worst type. Donuts are deep fried. Cakes, they use vegetable oils. Margarine is just pure poison. Cheetos, Kurkure, Maggi noodles, Doritos, You know, these are all the things our kids are eating, and some adults are eating them as well. They cause serious issues. They cause, you know, they reduce your good cholesterol. They increase the LDL. They cause heart disease. They cause obesity, type 2 diabetes, inflammation. They cause cancer. They are well known to cause cancer. You know, there is a opinion. There is an opinion of doctors based on research. They say if you smoke a pack of cigarette for 25 years, your chances of getting lung cancer is 17 to 18%. If you consume vegetable oils, which we are consuming for 25 years, your chances of getting cancer is more than 60%. This is really bad. And that is the reason cancer has become very, very common. Every other male in US is now has a high chance of getting cancer. Now you will, if you go find out, you will see a lot of people are getting cancer in our people who in our relatives, people we know. So cancer is growing really, really, really fast, and trans fats is one of the main reasons, and trans fats being consumed through vegetable oils. Now, a little bit about why is that? Because this is just a picture of your cell membrane. Our body is made out of cells. Are a living thing. Their membranes are very, very sophisticated, very complicated. In the membrane itself, besides other parts of the cell, you have fat molecules. Okay, cell membrane has a function. When you have trans fats end up in your cell membrane can't function properly. So your cell doesn't function properly. And cancer is your own cells that have gone bad, that are misbehaving. Okay, so this is like a reason why, you know, trans fats can easily cause cancer in your body. Now here is just to let you understand how bad it is. It did a study, very extensive study of 33,000 women. This is a very extensive study over multiple years. They found out if the average intake of trans fat is only 3.6 grams. 3.6 gram is very small amount. If they consume 3.6 grams of trans fat per day, they increase the risk of heart attack by 300 times, 300%, which means 3 times more, compared to women who consume only 2.5. So just the 1 gram, 1.1 gram difference increases your risk of heart disease by 3 times. You know, 300% increase. This is really bad. So the teeny tiny amounts of trans fats can be extremely dangerous. Okay, so the thing that I mentioned before, that it's not actually absolute zero trans fat. It's if it's less than 0.5 grams per serving. Okay, so you can imagine if they are saying 0.5 grams, it's gonna have 0.49 grams in the serving size. Okay, all right, let's move on. About the fats, you know, how we can use the good fats, the unsaturated and the monounsaturated, the desi ghee, butter, olive oil. So use the animal fat and desi ghee and butter for cooking. That's the best thing to do. You can also use olive oil, but the olive oil has to be organic and first cold press. So you guys need to understand this terminology. When you go buy olive oil next time, or for that matter, any fruit oil, uh, like coconut or even avocado, especially olive oil, it has to be the first cold press. What does that mean? You take olives, they are fresh, you don't heat them up, you keep them cold, and you press them to extract the oil the first time. That olive oil is the richest olive oil. Okay, now after pressing, what is left behind is the gooey cake, which which is the remains of the solid part of the olives, with maybe some oil left in it, but they can't extract it by further pressing. Okay, so you need to consume the first cold press olive oil. We have that available. widely here, by the way. So if you go to, you buy Al Jof, it's a Saudi brand, it's very nice, or you can buy Rahma, but buy the first cold press one, okay? Now, just to let you know, don't get tricked. There is a olive oil which they sell it as cooking olive oil. It's called, the technical name is pomace olive oil. The pomace olive oil is not good. Please do not consume it, because in the remaining pasty cake that is left, then they use heat and solvents to extract the remaining olive oil. Now it has gone through industrial and chemical process, and then they sell it cheap as, and then they, by the way, take it to refining process, and then they sell it as pomace oil or cooking olive oil. So do not consume that. That's bad for you. Okay. So get the first cold press olive oil for consumption. I know the pomace oil is cheap, but believe me, you don't want to consume. You don't want to consume any poison. It's poisonous. It has trans fats in them. Okay, and then you can use olive oil and avocado oil for dressing purpose for cold consumption. So you can read this in more detail. Look, so we covered basically vegetable oils. Throw vegetable oils if you have them at home. Even if you have a full bottle, please do not consume it. Instead, use desi ghee, butter. I use Almarai desi ghee at home. I use olive oil. You can use any good brand, which is, I use Al Jof olive oil, which is first cold press. Okay, there is the next poison, the sweet poison. Okay, so there are many types of sweet. So let's cover the artificial sweeteners. So I've put together a long list of commonly available artificial sweeteners. Okay, these are the brand names, but chemically they are aspartame, which is used in Diet Cokes and Diet Pepsis a lot, by the way, Diet sodas. There are two further specialized type of aspartame, which is called neotame and advantame, even worse. Sucralose, ASK, sulfame potassium, saccharin, xylitol, which is erythritol, maltitol. These are all the itol sugar alcohols, and processed sugar. Okay, so processed sugar can be from natural sources, but that's not even good for you. Okay, so sweeteners, artificial sweeteners are really bad. Some of them are carcinogenic. They are well known and proven to cause cancer, especially aspartame and saccharin. Okay, so avoid them. Don't drink Diet Cokes and Diet sodas at all. For that matter, please don't consume sodas. They are very bad for you. If you are hooked on sodas, I suggest you start using just sparkling water. It's carbonated water. It's fine to use it. Drink as much as you like, no problem. But do not consume sodas in general, like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and the transparent 7-Up, Sprite. They're all very, very bad for you. So what do? They stimulate your appetite. They lead to increased cravings. You will crave to eat more. It causes weight gain. It causes type 2 diabetes. It lowers your immunity. It causes mood swings. Causes tremors, headache, heart palpitation. It causes cancer. Okay, so very bad in general. Now let's move to natural sweeteners. Okay, stevia and monk fruit. Now they are safe to use. They don't make you sick, but there is an issue. They can increase still you're consuming, it's sweet. It's your brain thinks, you're eating a sweet thing. So it is going to prolong your addiction to sugar. And it's going to interfere with your satiation signals in your body. You'll probably would like to consume more food. Okay. Now there is a phenomena. It's called cephalic effect. Okay. When you put food in your mouth, and even before you put your food in your mouth, the smell and the sight of the food makes your brain initiate hormonal activity for digestion and stuff. Okay. So when you put these natural sweeteners in your mouth, it is still sweet. And for most of the people, not some of the people, it releases the same hormones in your body which are released when you're consuming, sugar, the natural sugar. Okay, and it's a problem. Okay, so how would you know that you have the cephalic effect? It's very difficult to figure that part out, right? So if you are anybody who's starting on keto, I highly recommend that they do not consume any sweeteners, even monk fruit or stevia. Now, just monk fruit, in my opinion, is better than stevia. And if you want to consume them in a liquid pure form. So you will put drops. Don't consume them in the powder form, because the powder has other additives put into it, okay, and which are bad for you, okay. Like erythritol. Erythritol causes issues in your tummy, in your stomach. So I would not recommend it. Okay. Now, here is the issue. If you're consuming sugar, I'm talking about plain sugar, okay? Like cane sugar or beet sugar, normal table sugar that you consume, or if you're using some kind of syrups like um, syrups that you put on waffles, so maple syrup, right? So any type of those kind of syrups which are caloric sweeteners, they did brain scans. They figured out if you have a normal brain, you feel good, when you do certain activities that makes you satisfied or happy, or so that is done because your brain releases a hormone called dopamine. Now, release of the hormone doesn't do anything. When that hormone is received by the dopamine receptors, that's when you feel satisfied. When you eat sugar, you get this sense of satisfaction, and because anything that is addictive, you want to go back to it, right? So sugar is also addictive. Cocaine, is very addictive. Smoking is addictive. So anything that you are addicted to, when you do that activity, your brain releases dopamine, and dopamine is received by the receptors, and that's when you feel good. Now, if you uh, if you are addicted to something and you consume it too much, your brain will release too much dopamine, and your dopamine receptors will become insensitive over time. So the sensitivity will go low. Then the dopamine will not work on the receptors as much as before. So you will keep on eating, and it's a vicious circle. And you will say, "Hey, let me consume that thing that I'm addicted to, cocaine or sugar or smoking or whatever, and so that I can feel a high." Right? And then you will do more and more. And the more you do, the more insensitive you will become. So they did the brain scans. For a normal brain scan, the red part shows high sensitivity. For a cocaine user, there is very little red and there is more, kind of green and little yellow. But the sugar brain is the most affected. It has the lowest sensitivity. So they have figured out that the sugar addiction is worse than cocaine. It's 7 times more worse than cocaine. Now, if you are a smoker, you're addicted to smoking. If somebody comes and advises you, and you have kids, I have seen my friend, they left smoking. If you are addicted to cocaine, it's very difficult to leave it. So you get institutionalized. Okay, you will have to send you to a center where they will force you to leave it, and then by the way, you can go back to it. And sugar is even more addicted than cocaine. So that's why it's not that easy to leave it. Okay, now this is known um, by the food industry. Okay, that sugar is addictive. That's why they are adding. There is a secret in food industry. Add sugar to the food items you are creating, even if it does not require sugar, because it's going to have that addictive effect, and people will buy your food items again and again. Now, do you know tomato ketchup? They add. They have added 33% of it is sugar. They have added sugar to it. 1/3 of it is sugar. Barbecue sauces, more than 40% is added sugar in it. And why are you adding sugar to it? Because you get addicted to it. Okay, that's why the kids can't eat anything. Oh, let me put a lot of tomato ketchup in it. And now adults are doing the same thing. All right, so this is now sugars. Let's come to the last part, which is toxic chemicals in the plastics. We have them in every home. So if you get these plastic utensils like food and liquid containers, it says a BPA free because BPA was that bad thing. They found out, and now the plastic manufacturers have removed BPA from the food grade plastic. Well, guess what? That was the one thing that they were able to prove in a way so that the industry can, they brought in legal action against the industry to force them to ban it so that they can fix it. But there are other things in the plastic. They are called phthalates and PVCs. They are even equally harmful, proven, but not legally put in action. Because what happens, you go to Food and Drug Authority, say, oh, it's not conclusive because in small amounts, it doesn't harm the body. But, we are consuming a lot of amount. So phthalates are something, if you have plastic at room temperature and you have food in it or water in it, like water bottles, it produces phthalates, maybe few units. But if you warm it up in microwave, and it can be completely microwave safe, the phthalates are still there. It produces, heating produces 300 to 400 times more phthalates chemicals. You consume them, phthalates act like hormones in your body, and it causes weird hormonal issues, especially in women. So plastics are very bad. People who avoid them, people who know the industry, they are chemical engineers and stuff, they do not consume, like, for example, water into water bottles. They have reverse osmosis machines and at home filtration. They consume that water. And even in the reverse osmosis machine, if there was a plastic pipe in the machine, they replace that with a silicone pipe, because silicone is different from plastic, by the way, because they are that careful. Okay. Now there are other things which is plastic. Baby bottles are made of plastic, and we put warm milk in it. That's really bad for the babies. So we have to be very, very careful. Car interiors are made of a lot of plastic, and in Saudi Arabia, they become like super hot, even if they are parked in an underground parking. Okay, so you gotta open up the windows and let the air go out, exchange and get the fresh air if possible. A lot of toys are made of plastic. Kids put them in their mouths. A lot of cosmetics are stored in plastic containers. Okay, in your shower you have the plastic curtain. Okay, which when you're taking a hot shower, it's releasing those harmful chemicals. Okay, let's move on. Now we will go to the next topic, which is metabolic syndrome. I think we'll cover this and then probably we'll stop for question and answer. This is the core topic. Okay, so far we have covered whether you want to do keto or not, you want to do low carb or not. Please remove toxins and poisons from your life, from your food, from your household, from things that you do as much as you can possibly, right? So stop using plastic utensils. Stop, even in the freezer. Please just get glass utensils or metal utensils, plus or for that matter, the utensils, right? So let's talk about metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome has to do with your metabolism, right? How we consume food and for nourishment. Okay. The metabolic syndrome is also known as insulin resistance. It's also called syndrome X, and a common name is carb addiction, because excessive carbs cause this problem at the root of the problem. So let's look at it. Now, we all have blood in our body. The babies have more blood per kilogram compared to adults. If depending on your height, an adult may have 5 to 6 liters of blood in their body. And the blood is going through a circulatory system. your heart is pumping the blood, and if I poke you anywhere on your body, any part of your body, you're going to bleed. That's very interesting. That means the blood is circulating everywhere in your body. So what is the purpose of the blood circulation system? Your body is made out of cells, right? You have skin cells, you have muscle cells, you have organ cells, and a lot of cells. And they are living things. They need nourishment. They need oxygen. Okay. So the blood is the mechanism, circulatory system is the mechanism which takes the nourishment and oxygen to every cell of your body. You have a lot of blood vessels around your lungs. So when your lungs take out the oxygen from the air, that oxygen is absorbed by the blood vessels. And it ends up in your blood. Same thing in your gut, in your stomach, in your intestine, the digestive system. You have a lot of blood vessels in the gut lining. And when your stomach, digestive system, processes the food you're eating and extracts the useful nutrition out of it, and the waste gets excreted through the stool or urine, that nutrition is absorbed by the blood vessels, and that nutrition and oxygen is taken to the every part of your body. Now, in your extremities, in your fingers, in your toes, you have these small capillaries. Okay, you can see them actually if you are, if you look carefully. So your every cell of your body is getting the blood, either directly through the veins or capillaries or through the intercellular fluid that they have. Okay. Now, so that's why blood has a mechanism. Allah created us that way. Okay. Now, uh, how much sugar do we have to consume to increase to reach the normal blood sugar level? The sugar has the blood uh, consumes the sugar from our diet, and it ends up in our blood. What is the maximum amount of sugar that our blood in our bodies can bear? Because you have seen diabetics, and they do this blood sugar test in the morning. They are testing for what is my blood sugar level. So what is the normal blood sugar level? So on the left, you see if you're fasting, your blood sugar level might be 60, 70 milligrams per deciliter. Optimal is around 83. The good zone, optimal is what we are shooting for, but the good is around, 90 plus, maybe 100, if you have eaten something. So even if I take the higher level of good blood sugar level, like 100 milligram per deciliter, so that means 1 deciliter is equal to zero 0.1 liter, has 100 milligrams. So if we have 6 liters of blood, you're a big guy. That means the normal level of blood sugar is around 6,000 milligrams, which is 6 grams. So only 6 grams of sugar will exceed the normal limit of blood sugar. If you have 6 liters of blood, I put in 6 grams. How much is 6 grams? If you have a measuring teaspoon, which is very small, it's 4 grams. 6 gram means 1.5 teaspoon of sugar will exceed your normal blood sugar level. Wow. Our bodies cannot keep a lot of sugar in our blood. If it exceeds that, it causes many, many issues. Higher blood sugar causes a lot of damage in your body. Actually, it causes irreversible, permanent damage in your body. It starts hardening your blood vessels. It starts corroding your blood vessels and many other problems. So blood pressure, heart disease, all of those are caused by high blood sugar level. Okay, inflammation as well. Now, we eat. So let's see how much sugar are we consuming, or actually before that, let's see how so now you eat food. We are definitely eating more than 1.5 teaspoons of sugar, right? So that sugar ends up in our blood. The purpose of the blood is to nourish the cells. So the sugar should exit the blood and enter into our blood, into our body cells. So how does that happen? The problem is the way Allah has created the cells, there is a glucose channel, but it is closed. The glucose in our blood cannot enter into our cell. The cell is going to consume that glucose for energy, the mitochondria in our cells, right? The problem is sugar cannot enter our cells directly because the glucose channel is closed. So there is something called insulin receptor on the cell membrane. Okay, that insulin receptor works like a lock and key. As soon as your blood sugar level goes above, your sugar level increases in your blood, pancreas produce a hormone called insulin. And that insulin goes into your bloodstream and it attaches to the insulin receptors of the cells and it opens up the glucose channel of the cell. And once that channel is open, sugar from the blood can enter into the cells. And now the cell is going to consume glucose for energy. So insulin is very, very important to open up the glucose channel so that the sugar can exit the blood and enter into the cells. So naturally, for a normal person, if you consume food, it's going to create a sugar spike, glucose spike in your blood. And then insulin will be released by pancreas, which will force the sugar out of the blood into the cells. And, your blood sugar level goes down. Alhamdulillah. Just to explain this in a better way, people who used to get type 1 diabetes, type 1 and type 2 diabetes are completely different diseases, okay? In type 1 diabetes, your pancreas have gone bad and they don't produce insulin anymore, okay? And they don't know the exact reasons. They believe it's autoimmune and it gets triggered at an early age in most people. And I have seen a person who got it in his late 20s because of a lot of stress. Anyways, people who are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, their pancreas are not producing insulin. So when they eat food and the sugar level goes higher in their blood, they have to inject insulin. That's why if you have a friend who has, or somebody who is type 1 diabetic, he is always carrying insulin with him and he's injecting himself. And whether he's traveling or not, and he's really troubled by it because there is slow release insulin, there is fast release insulin, there is bolus shot, whatnot. That's what's on their mind. Because if their sugar level goes high, it causes problem, and if they put too much insulin, their sugar level can go down to the negative level, which can cause hypoglycemia. They can actually die from it. It's very, very dangerous. Okay. Now here is the thing. If some of the older guys, people on this call, will remember when we were kids, diabetes, we were very scared of diabetes. If you get diabetes, it's a very bad thing. The reason for that is they were actually talking about type 1 diabetes because insulin was discovered in the lab in 1921 or 22. That's when they started producing insulin and then injecting. People, type 1 diabetics, had insulin available externally to inject. Before that, the kids who would get type 1 diabetes, their bodies was not producing insulin. They will eat food, but the sugar will remain in their bloodstream. They would become their cells would starve. They would become thin, and they would die. It was a very horrible death. So that's type 1 diabetes, diabetic patients before insulin was discovered. So insulin is very, very important hormone. And people who can't produce it, like type 1 diabetics, they have to inject it. Okay, so I hope this clarifies the function of insulin and how it works. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, how much sugar are we consuming? And we can say, hey, I consume normal sugar. Okay, now we are talking about caloric sweeteners, which includes cane sugar, what we normally consume, beet sugar, high fructose corn syrups, other sugar, other types of sweeteners like honey, agave. We are talking about sweet stuff, that we put in other things to make them sweet. So, only 200 years ago, we were only consuming like 5 to 6 pounds of sugar per person per year. But nowadays, we are consuming more than 100 pounds. It's like 20 times more. Wow, that's really bad. That's very high. So if we even compare ourselves to our forefathers only a couple of 100 years ago, we are consuming just raw sugar in a very high quantity. Okay. This spike that you see in the middle around 1920s is when Coca-Cola was introduced in the market. Okay. So we are, to begin with, just plain raw sugar, we are eating 20 times more than what people were consuming in the past. Here are, it's all the different names they are using for marketing purpose. These are all sugars, raw sugar. Tapioca syrup. I don't even know what trestle is. Dehydrated cane juice, blackstrap molasses, carob syrup, castor sugar. Oh, yani, too many names. There are even more names than this. Now, this is what you will find on the ingredient list of more than 95% of the food items, packaged food items. Okay, they have added sugar to everything by different names. There is another item which is available in every sugar. So if you go to a grocery store, you look at all the processed food available to purchase in Panda or Tamimi or anywhere else, all these things which are coming in bottles, boxes, uh, tin boxes, whatever, they have sugar, 90% of them. And they have partially or fully hydrogenated vegetable oils that we talked about. And the reason they have to put it on there is to increase the shelf life. It works almost like a preservative. If they don't put vegetable oils, by the way, they will have to put chemical preservatives, which is even worse. Okay, so they by the way, they used to use like around 50, 60 years ago, like they used to use better oils like coconut oil. They used to use butter, ghee, but then the industry, moved towards these cheaper oils and a lot of other political reasons as well. And now this big food industry is producing massive amounts of unhealthy food items. Okay. And by the way, this sugar, the most common sugar being used is high fructose corn syrup. Okay, this thing, high fructose corn syrup is now very, very common, and that's basically fructose. And fructose is a very bad type of sugar because it's metabolized by our liver, is giving fatty liver to everyone. Now, young kids, they all have fatty livers. Most of you, if you go check, do an ultrasound, do a test, you will have fatty liver. All right, let's move on. Okay, so now let's talk about, we talked about just the raw sugars. Now let's see what are the other types of sugars that are increasing our blood sugar level. In our blood, the raw sugar goes as sugar, but there are other things which are increasing our blood sugar level as well. So we have to understand a little bit of nutrition theory. So you might have studied this in your high school, but let's go through it again very quickly. So nutrients are basically two types: macronutrients, the big stuff which we consume in large amounts, and micronutrients, which are relatively smaller quantities that we consume. So in macronutrients, we have what we normally call macros. Macros, you have carbohydrates, also known as carbs. Okay, this is a lot of fruit and a lot of grains. We will talk about the details of carbs in a bit. You have a lot of fats, oils, cooking oil. You have animal fat. You have proteins, which is basically a lot of meat. These are the macros. This is what we are mostly consuming. And then each food has some vitamins, some minerals, some phytochemicals. Okay, so there are different examples of those. So you have macronutrients, you have micronutrients. Okay, and some of them are essential. Like there are essential minerals that you have to consume on daily basis because your body cannot survive without those. Okay, like magnesium, potassium, sodium. Okay, there are certain vitamins that you have to consume as well. Okay, like phytochemicals like are optional. There are essential fatty acids, essential fats that you have to consume. Okay, there are, and guess what? There are no essential carbohydrates. You will never hear, hey, essential carbohydrates. You can survive without carbohydrates. Okay, but let's go into the details. Okay, so let's talk about carbohydrates. So there are two types of carbohydrates: simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Please don't get troubled by the complex chemistry over here. These are just examples. Basically, simple carbohydrates are monosaccharides and disaccharides. Monosaccharide means one molecule. So the simplest molecules, monosaccharides, are glucose. Okay, glucose that we used to eat, glucose D when we were kids. When we would get sick, or sometimes we would just use it as like a juice type thing. That was glucose. That was single molecule. Then fructose, which is in a lot of fruits, it's a single molecule. And galactose, which is found in milk. Okay, so this single molecule. Now, disaccharides are when two of these molecules are connected together, in one molecule. So table sugar, the chemical name is sucrose. Sucrose is made out of one glucose molecule and one fructose molecule. So half of the table sugar is glucose, half is fructose. Now, in milk, especially cow milk, what we normally consume has lactose. A lot of people are lactose intolerant. Well, guess what? Lactose is a sugar, is a disaccharide, which is one galactose molecule and one glucose molecule. So that's why milk is tastes sweet. Now, here is the thing. Simple carbohydrates, monosaccharides and disaccharides, when you put it in your mouth, it tastes sweet. Okay, this is the sweetness that you feel, you can taste. But when you go to the complex carbs, now we are talking about polysaccharides, more than two molecules. We are talking about starches, for example. These are chains of these molecules. When you have chains, when you consume it, it doesn't taste sweet. But when it goes into your body breaks down these chains into simple molecules, and it gives you a sugar spike in your blood. Okay, so what are they? Starches, potatoes. You have heard about cornstarch. You know what is cornstarch? If you take corns, the yellow kernel, there is a lot of moisture in it. If you dry it and grind it to a powder, that's cornstarch. That's 95% sugar, chains of sugar. Now, it doesn't taste sweet, but when it goes into your body, it breaks down into simple molecules and it gives you a sugar spike. Potato, there is a potato starch. If potato if you take a potato, a lot of moisture, dry it up, make it a powder, it's 95% starch, it's 95% sugar. Same thing, all the grains, rice, wheat, millet, and all those things, they are all full pulses, they are all full of starches, chains of sugars. Okay, so the next type is called glycogen, which is called animal starch. So animals store some type of, the glycogen, there's a sugar store called glycogen, which is they store it in their liver and muscles. But we don't get a lot of it. It's like lower quantities. Then you have cellulose, which is not, you can't digest it. Human stomach digestive system cannot digest cellulose, so it kind of passes through. Okay, so let's look at in a different way. If you have 100 grams of sugar, it's 100% carbs. If you have wheat, it's basically 70% carbs. It has a lot of starch in it. If you take rice, it's 70% carbs. It's 70% basically sugar. You can think of it like that, because you eat it, within few minutes, your digestive system is gonna break it down into simple molecules. Okay. Then you have potatoes, 95% carbs. If you take out the moisture content, same thing, corns. Okay. Now imagine how much sugar are you consuming in all these different forms. You wake up, you go do breakfast, bread, parathe, shorate, okay, jam, jellies, marmalades, milk, and tea, and then you add sugar to it. The only thing that is not carbs is the eggs or the butter, which was the good stuff. And they tell you, please don't eat it, eat less, which is bad. Actually, you should eat. That's very healthy for you. So mostly breakfast is like 80-90% carbs, sugar. Then you have tea during the office time, or you take some biscuits with it. That's mostly carbs. You during lunchtime, you're eating bread, you're eating rice, you have potatoes, you have other things, even salads have sweet stuff in it. Then you have some dessert at the end. Then you have tea with some samosa, pikoda. That's a lot of flour. That's carbs. Our food is abundant with carbs. So the average person is consuming around 350 grams to a half a kilo of carbs every day. We just said, hey man, only 6 grams of carbs will give you a sugar spike. Okay, will exceed your normal limit. So we are eating a lot of carbs. Okay, so how are these carbs and sugars consumed in our body? So the first thing that is done is it is consumed as energy. Our cells absorb the sugar, like I explained before, and there is mitochondria, which is the energy house in our cells, and it breaks down sugar into and creates energy. Okay, and that our body uses that as an energy. And the second thing way it is, but we are eating excessive amount of carbs. So what our body does is it stores that excessive carbs in a store called glycogen, which is basically in the liver. It's a very small store, 100 grams, and in the muscles, all the muscles in your body around 400 grams. The total body, body stores glycogen. Glycogen is basically sugar stored as sugar in our body, around, 500 grams, half a kilo. And then we are consuming a lot of sugar on daily basis. So what our body does is all of this food nourishment, it stores it as fat in our body. So the fat on our body is caused by the excessive carbs, and it's an infinite store. You can become as fat as possible as you want, and it's very, very potent way of storing energy. Now the thing is, we are always in feast mode. We are always consuming. We never go to famine mode, because we have so much abundance of food. Because if we go on famine mode, our body will first consume the glycogen store, and then it will start burning our fat as energy, and you will become thin. If you're on hungry, or in a famine area, and you don't eat food or consume food, you don't have nourishment. Okay, um, it's very
Sorry,
important.
Kamran bhai. I
Yes,
think रियाद में मगरिब हो गई है. So
yes.
हम या तो ब्रेक ले लेते हैं, क्विक क्वेश्चन आंसर्स करके इसको वाइंड अप करते हैं.
I think we can stop here.
Yeah.
This is a logical point to stop, and we can continue next time. We covered like 42 slides, alhamdulillah. So I'll take questions now. If you have any questions.
Okay. If anyone has any question, just raise your hand. We will allow them to have their mic on. So Adil is the first one. Adil, we allowed your mic, so you can speak now, please. Unmute your mic and you can speak.
Assalamu alaikum, Kamran Saab.
Ji, wa salam.
This is Adil Fayaz. I have maybe asked you this earlier as well, but eating or consuming whole foods which would contain some sort of carbs, glucose and fructose, let's say fruits or even grains. Uh, I mean, apparently it's 70% carbs. So how do we measure that? I mean, is that out of our plate? That should that not be part of our eating or diet habits at all? Because I mean that somehow that looks surprising to me, because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a whole food and it should be healthy rather than it's leading to sugar or insulin resistance.
Yeah, so it's a very good question. I get this question a lot. So we have to be very, very smart about this and logical. Okay, Allah has created these ni'mah for us to consume. So Alhamdulillah. Here is the thing. I gave you an example of the sugar consumption, right? In nowadays we are consuming 20 times more sugar than what our ancestors only 200 years ago were consuming. Okay, so the problem is the if we are consuming if we were consuming all natural food, not genetically modified GMO wheat. You are eating desi wheat like it's available in my village, and even now they are switching to these GMO wheat crops types. If we were eating all natural from the beginning, the crops were being grown in healthy soil, which the plants were getting all the nutrition and minerals and everything on the proper proportions, like few hundred years ago. We had a healthy lifestyle. We didn't have air pollution. Air quality was good. We were moving more rather than sitting in our offices a whole day. We had much healthier lifestyles, a lot healthier. There's a huge difference. And you were consuming these foods, you were active as well, you would never get sick, you will not get obese. That is the reason. If you look at pictures from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, even 60, 70 years ago, majority of the people were thin. Now if you compare the picture, people are like fat like crazy. Most of the people are obese. I'm obese by definition, even now, even though I have lost weight. So the point is, if we have that, alhamdulillah, no problem. We won't need keto today, okay? But the problem is the whole food system has become so kharab. Everybody's using vegetable oils. There was no vegetable oil before 1911. You know what is the brand name of Crisco in Pakistan? Dalda. Dalda is the Pakistani brand name for Crisco. So there is, the whole food chain has been messed up by the big food industry, okay? And because they're working for profit, they are making people sick, and the big pharma is making money by taking care of these sick people, and not in the best way possible either, right? So the thing is, like, now some of us have become harab, have become unhealthy. So there are some statistics that I'll show you next time, where how many people are still metabolically healthy. They are saying like around 20 to 30% of people are already diabetic in most of the countries. They are diabetic by definition. They are already sick. But that doesn't mean the remaining 70% are healthy. No, they are either pre-diabetic or they have some other metabolic issue. So like almost less than 10% people are actually metabolically healthy. So if you are sick, then you have to take आपको ना परहेज, you'll have to do some take measures to avoid these things, to get back to the healthy state, to become metabolically healthy. So that's why we are talking about why you need to cut more. Once you achieve metabolic flexibility, you become healthier, then you can go back and consume in the right proportion, not crazy like now. Okay, I hope that answers the question. And next question, please.
Thank you, Kamran Bhai. Kamran Bhai, before going to the next questions, I would suggest participants as well as you make it concise so more people can ask the question and participate.
Okay.
So next is Rizwan Manzoor. Let me allow the mic. Rizwan, now you can ask the question. Just unmute yourself and you can ask.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Very good presentation. Really enjoyed it so far. Just quick question. I know it's around Maghrib time. What about the natural sugars like we take in honey and dates and fruits? Is that also harmful or?
Yeah, same. It's the same question, right? So if you are not metabolically healthy and you have developed, we could not cover it today, but inshallah, we will cover the first thing next time, is the metabolic disease, which is called metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance. If you have developed that, then you have to really cut on all kinds of sugars, all kinds of carbs. When I say sugar, it basically sugar is equal to carb. So you have to cut all kinds of carb. Doesn't matter what kind of natural you're eating, dates or honey or whatever. You have to cut it. Yeah, till you become healthy, then you can maybe restart. But then you're not gonna go crazy again with it.
Okay, so next is Mohammed Danish. Danish, you can speak. We allowed your mic.
Assalamu alaikum. Kamran bhai, I wanted to ask, how would one know that they are metabolically healthy? Like, are there any tests that
Yes,
one has to
we
perform?
That was the very next topic. Unfortunately, we could not cover it, but next time, inshallah, we'll cover it. I feel like we'll have to do 3 sessions. This is the first one. So, yeah, inshallah, we'll cover it next time. I will share the slides, which will.
Kamran bhai, this recording will be shared with all the registered participants automatically after this webinar finish, and that's includes the slides as well.
Yeah, and I will include those slides as well, which I haven't covered. So if you want to look at them, and I will also share some YouTube channels and some other resources if you want to do some homework and study by yourself. Yes, there are tests that you can do.
Great.
We talk
So-
about lab test as well. They won't be in the slide. There are like a couple of them are mentioned, but there will be more details in the next session, inshallah.
Inshallah, I think we are almost done. We don't have anyone else raising their hand. So thank you, Kamran bhai, for very good and fruitful session. Thanks for your time. And inshallah, as we discussed before this webinar, we are planning to have the part 2 of this series by 3rd of November, most probably. Definitely, I will confirm with you before publishing anything in the webinar for this series. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Kamran bhai.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.